That is a rough cut. But welcome to the first episode of Games Recap. What is Games Recap, Larry? This is, of course, Brandon Pham.
Larry Charles.
Larry Charles.
I like how you ask me a question and proceed to start.
Yeah.
Like, what's recap, Larry? Well, I'm Brandon Pham. This is Larry Charles. Hey, everybody. Larry Charles here. Brandon Pham, one half of the Game Dev Unchained podcast team. Obviously, Brandon's the other half. Today, we're bringing together, Games Recap. We used to do this in the past. Once a week, we'd sit down and just go over all the big topics of the week. Now we're going to try to do it once a day. And, it's a big undertaking, but we learned a lot on streaming live the last time we did something like this. So, I think we're going to be good this time around, right?
Yeah. So we're going to do this daily. So every 10 a.m. you will find us with Games Recap. This will be available also in podcast form, but we're doing this through Twitch first. And of course, if you're supporting us through Patreon or anything, you get a week early. But we're going to try our best to upload this on YouTube every day to make sure that if you do miss us, you will find the content all cut up on YouTube. So what can we do now? So Games Recap is obviously our way to kind of summarize daily big news from a game developer's perspective. And of course, this week, if anything, the biggest thing is E3.
Yeah. E3 is going on right now. A lot of big stuff in the headlines. A lot of small stuff that I'm personally excited about, but I think we kind of want to focus on what's the big news that's going to be the topics for today, for today's game recap. I know we want to look at the Microsoft press conference because they're trying to do a lot with their technology. It seems like they're preparing to open up to a world where consoles aren't the main way that we play games, but just games on any device is the way that we play games. And so they're transitioning, it seems like.
Today we're going to mainly focus on Microsoft versus Google with their online streaming platforms. Obviously, there was a lot of hype with Google going into this week with their announcement, but with no details on the pricing, how it's going to work. Does the cap limits actually gonna hamper their announcement? And I feel that it did. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually review the footage as soon as it's ready. It is actually transcoding right now, but we're gonna review it. I haven't personally watched fully the Google Stadia and the Microsoft press conference. We're not gonna watch it completely full. We're going to skip ahead, but we're going to give you like a full-on reaction. So Larry, why don't you kind of buy us some time and talk about your E3 first experience into the industry. So for people who are out there watching, right, if you're not a gamer, which is odd because you're watching this, you don't know what E3 is about. Kind of highlight a lot of what that is.
Actually, I had a pretty negative first E3 experience. Don't want to bring the mood down here, but first E3 experience for me, I was really excited. Student at the Art Institute of Orange County, and we got a couple of free passes to E3, which was awesome. I don't know how that actually got hooked up now that I know that E3 was like developer only type thing, or it might have been maybe I was early in my career, but either way, I was still in my early 20s when I went to my first E3, and I lined up early. I was like right behind the double doors before they opened. And I remember just boom, doors open like maybe 10 minutes late. Everyone's just rushing in to just like go absorb content. I saw people like beelining for Nintendo lines or for whatever company they wanted to go see like demos of. Then I just remember I was like, well, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to let people go and do whatever. I'm just going to enjoy this. Is my first time here. I'm not trying to run. Plus, I didn't know the layout, so I wouldn't know where I was running anyway. So I went to the first booth was Prima. Or Prima, like the strategy guide company, they used to make these or I don't know if they even still do. I haven't bought a strategy guide in years, but they used to make these Bible-sized strategy guides for like some of your favorite games across all platforms. So I went there, I put my little swag bag down. That like this was the first day of E3. Nobody had really any chance to grab stuff except for the stuff that was in the hallway beforehand. So I go to the first booth, Prima, put my bag down, and I grabbed like a Dragon Quest 4, Dragon Quest 5 strategy guide, something like that. And like I was flipping through. And then this female security guard comes up to me and she's like, "Do you want to put that back?" And so I'm shocked. Like, why would you put all this product on display if you don't want me to see it? So I was assuming there must have been something else she was talking about. So I was like, "Put what back?" And she was like, "The one that you put in your bag." And so appalled that somebody had just accused me of stealing, like within 40 seconds of me being at E3. So I took out my bag, I dumped it over onto their table, and all that came out was like tchotchke like lanyard, pencil, maybe even like one of those free magazine, like a free Edge magazine or something like that, like they had outside. I didn't even put anything in my bag, obviously. I didn't even touch my bag except to put it down. And then I picked up a strategy guide to look through it. And so the guy who like was working for Prime, he didn't step in. Like he saw this going down and he kind of was like staying to the side. Then when he saw me empty my bag, he like did one of those, holds his face and like starts walking over to her. And then I didn't hear what he said to her, but I heard her say to him, I know he's the type that steals. And so like that was just like a double, like
she doubled
you're already
down.
wrong, but now you're gonna dig even deeper. So that's the half of it. So somehow later that day I was like outside, like, you know, a little beside myself. And there was two gentlemen having a conversation. And I was just sitting there trying to figure out, like, you know, am I gonna go home? I guess how I really felt about that kind of treatment. And I remember I could tell that the bald-headed guy was high up at E3, if not the person who's like the main decision maker. He was like, I could hear what they were talking about. I heard them throwing around C title stuff and how the conversation was being handled. So I kindly interrupted by saying, like, I waited for there to be like a break. I think they were eating, and so like I saw him wiping his face. I was like, hey, excuse me, don't mean to interrupt. And then I just explained the story to him, and so he like doesn't look at me, right? He like looks into the distance and he like. Then he looks at me and says, so what do you want me to do? You want me to shoot her? And so that was why I didn't go to E3 for probably like 6 years straight, because that was how the game industry welcomed me into E3 as a young kid who'd been playing video games his whole life, super excited to be there. Not only did I have something bad happen to me, and then that person doubled down, but then when I found somebody who possibly could have even just been like, oh, that really sucks. I'm sorry, man. Look, I don't know how the third-party security stuff works, but please don't think that every part of E3 is going to be like that. Why don't you go in and, you know, go check out some of the games. I promise you it'll get your mind off of it, right? That sentence could have saved so much more than to look at me and then do the same thing the security guard did and just be like, oh, so what do you want me to do? You want me to shoot her? Who says that to somebody?
Right.
Who says that to anybody? You know what I mean? Why would they assume that that was the recourse that I was looking for? So, yeah. That's a stinker, but that was my first E3 experience.
Thankfully, my experience was a lot smoother. I was kind of welcomed in with open arms. You know, my experience, I can't distinctly remember my first time because I didn't have anything dramatic that happened. I remember being super excited. I believe the first time was probably when I was a student as well, when I was still in college. And when I went in there, I remember seeing all the glitz and glamours and the booth babes. And like, it was that, I think, at the heyday of when E3 was big and every major publisher, consoles had to be there. I mean, E3, of anything, if you don't know by now, is a conference for journalism and media, right? Mainly that. And then the gamers being there is obviously to feed into that. It actually went through a history of a lot of big companies pulling out because it got to a height where they were charging a premium. It was just really expensive. So there was a few E3s that I skipped, and mostly all the other consoles skipped because they felt that they didn't need to be there. Or I think it was a lot of back and forth to kind of just play ball with the E3 people to kind of just say, hey, you have a monopoly, sure, but we're not going to play your game with these prices. It's ridiculous. And then I think that's when Nintendo finally started to do the Nintendo Direct stuff. And we were laughing at that. Look, Nintendo can't afford it. They're across the street. They're even doing it not E3. They're doing pre-E3. But I felt like that started the trend for Microsoft and Sony starting to do their pre-E3 briefing. But now, like this year especially, Sony pulled out, not even being a presence. And it is a blow because they are the console leader. And I think it's starting to go in the decline again with internet being so readily available, where everybody can really kind of shape their conference to be no mistakes, which is part of the fun of E3 live conferences. There was like a whole, if you just YouTube it right now, there's a whole slew of like live faux pas where people just fuck up. And to limit, to limit that, a lot of people like Nintendo has kind of pioneered the just controlled conference and curated conference, and I think everybody's opting for that now.
Yeah.
With that being said, there are still some conferences still happening, obviously.
Sure. I think as much as I want to say E3 is like a great trade show for developers, it's what as time has gone on, like I've seen more and more of it about, press, right? Like, I guess press is probably primarily who I would say is going to benefit from E3 because everybody's coming out guns blazing. But only letting developers in, I guess that's just created a more controlled environment so that press can go in and do what they wanted to do. But then also, like, developers can get an early sneak peek at what other companies are doing. But I always thought from the beginning that E3 should have been press and public. I think that, press should have their day. And then developers and public can go in the same time, in my opinion. Even though I was one of the privileged developers that did get to go in and not have full lines of like people who just pay the $900 to get there and do X, Y, and Z. But I mean, that was one of the reasons why E3 was going downhill is because you don't have as many developers that are interested in going to E3 as you do, I would say, the public. I bet you public is outselling, or if not, going to trend higher than developer interest as we continue on.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see a shift go more towards like, oh, you know what? Just let the public in. They're the ones who are going to be here to see all this stuff. That's who you're selling the game to anyway.
That's true. That only happened like a few years ago, right? Where they finally let the public in.
This is the third year.
This is the third year?
Sure.
Okay. Because it was just like a mostly industry only type of present devs, and anybody like at GameStop, not to hate, can even apply and come in, and it was like it was a very loose industry related type of conference, and it was at still full capacity. Now that they let anybody in that could buy a ticket, I still think it's still a valuable conference to kind of gather all the game geeks together and just like game out, like a big 3-day arcade marathon, right? I think there's a lot of viability there, but the bigger guys, if this trend continues, I feel like slowly it's going to disintegrate back to what it was before in those struggling years where they were trying really hard to get content on the show floor, to get the buzz around it. Without the buzz, without the marketing material, because a few years ago, like this year, there was some controversy. I don't know if you know, but like a couple years ago, ESA, I believe, Entertainment Association something.
Sure. Okay.
Check the facts, guys. But they tried to buy E3, but they refused to sell. But now they're really having trouble. I think this is one of the last years really having trouble kind of financing it because it takes a lot of money to run it. And with all the big guns kind of leaving it, I don't know how many more years left E3 is going to be around. Of course, they're going to try to do it. I feel like there's a bailout sequence before they actually peace out, but it is unfortunate.
E3 started before we had the YouTube streaming era. Right? So like the idea of press getting together in one spot, getting all these interviews and seeing all these games made total sense, right? Like, oh, we're going to fly out 2 writers to Los Angeles. They're going to interview all the big publishers, see all the big games, and they're going to come back with enough content for the next 3-4 months of our magazine, right? Completely understandable. Now we're in an era where, and then also for the people making those games, there was no better way to get the message out than obviously through newsprint, through magazine. Like you're not going to go on Prodigy internet and be like, hey, here's all our games coming out. Click this video at like 3 frames a minute. You know what I mean? Like that just wasn't going to happen back in the days when E3 first started. Now you have live stream, you have YouTube backup, you have blogs. The information is so easy to get into the customer's hands, especially knowing that not all of your entire industry is in California. Not all the consumers are here locally. So why are you going to spend, and I don't know how much they spend, but let's just assume, let's say you spend $150,000 on like the actual floor plan to be there, but then also like setting up your booth. And I'm pulling that out of my butt because I don't know the actual numbers. But you're spending X to be a part of E3 and to advertise to people who are there and then know that press is going to write about it. You're not in control of the message. You're not in control of what actually happens. Like whenever you do a live demo and something jacks up and then you like look around, you're not in control of when the lead person is going to walk off stage completely because they just got uncomfortable and forgot their lines. Shout out to anybody who knows that reference. But basically what you're looking at is it's very expensive to be brick and mortar, especially right now when there's so much competition in gaming. It's so very difficult to get any sort of notice if you aren't already a huge publisher. And even the huge publishers are taking such big risks on these games to then say like, well, if it's going to cost us that much money to just be part of E3, but then for half of that, we could rent out the place next door, light it, build our own little set for the other half, and then be in complete control of the message. No one else is competing with us on that day. There is no leave our line and go somewhere else. We have total control, and we can broadcast it to the world through our own network. I see exactly why people are pulling out. Yeah,
and it's going to be interesting the next few E3s. It keeps going up and down, so it's going to peter out. I think at some point, E3 is going to be a lot smaller. Either they're going to have to try to think of other revenue streams to kind of keep it going, but right now it's a mega beast. And it's weird because I believe Games Conference in Germany and all these other mega conferences around the world, E3 is our closest within the States, that are specifically targeted to gamers, and it being like a mega event every year. It's weird that we're having so much trouble trying to get it going, and or like at least keep hearing news about it, like might have to like cancel type of deal.
As because of my own nostalgia, right, for big trade shows and like going out and like just putting my hands on a controller and playing a game. As I grow older, as I get more experienced, I'm more than happy to just watch it on YouTube real quick. Like I love just like, okay, what happened today? Click that link, click that link, click that link.
It's
and
much
then
faster.
Watch my 3 videos. I didn't have to pay $50 for parking. I didn't have to drive to LA in traffic. I didn't have to be around.
Plus, when we do go, it's mostly we go for a day. I think you see most of everything in a day. It isn't a conference for developers; it's a conference for gamers, which it is great to kind of have a preview of those games a year before. That's the perk of it, and not seeing some of those games maybe years later. So I still appreciate it. It is a big arcade marathon, basically, and I love it for that, and I hope it doesn't go away. But with that being said, let's go ahead and look at the Google Stadia conference. All right, to kind of lead up to this, Google Stadia is Google's streaming platform that got a lot of buzz back at GDC when they announced that it's going to be released shortly after in August, right? Didn't leave any details of the pricing, internet speed, or any of that info. And E3, they kind of lend their cards a bit. And like you, right, we don't watch the full press conference. I only got like tidbits, headlines, but even today, we're not going to watch the whole thing. We're going to skim through it and kind of react to what they're saying because the details to me were kind of loose. My overall impression so far of E3 has been kind of boring. Like there hasn't been any major news kind of dropped with Sony completely out of the picture, and even Microsoft. We'll look at Microsoft later. How they kind of didn't show anything. And their trailers are kind of whack. But we'll look at that. We'll react live because I haven't seen any of this. So we're going to go ahead and switch.
I can say real quick, though, that obviously like Sony, Microsoft, are you going to stop these big multi-million-dollar projects to get them to put together an E3 demo? That takes time and money and attention away from actually just trying to deliver the goal, which is make the game and make the game good. Thank you, Katsu.
We have live dog barking in the background. Thank you, guys. Thank you for everyone that's joining. Of course, we're reading your comments as it's going. So if you want to shout out, mention anything, want us to discuss something specific, just ask away. A lot of people came in because they saw the VHS tape, so I guess that works. So ReCAP, if anything, is showing our age a bit. I'm surprised that some of you millennials actually know that there's a there's a VHS.
I'm sure people recognize the icon, but like, oh yeah, this means save. Or no, that's like floppy disk.
So I'm gonna skip the intro here. A lot of the conferences is like, oh, there's Phil Harrison.
Connect. This series gives you a look at Stadia news, events, new titles, bonus features, and more. We'll be posting these Stadia Connect videos from time to time to bring you the latest from Google straight to all of you, the players. We've got a bunch of exciting news to share with you today, so let's get started. 3 months ago, we gave you a first look at Stadia, a new generation game platform powered by the best of Google. Today, we're going to tell you about the first wave of games available at launch. We'll share pricing details, including an exclusive launch offer, and you'll learn how to become one of the first Stadia players. Stadia has been years in the making across different Google teams. Google's mission has always been to make information more accessible for everyone.
Console, and you can tell by this because if you look at the articles that came out the first time you start hearing about Google doubling down on getting into the game industry this way, all the articles were like, oh, Google is making a console. Google's making a console. How is it going to compete with Xbox? How is it going to compete with PS4? What's it going to look like? And then to find out that like, oh yeah, it's a Chromecast with a controller because they're doing all the hard stuff behind the scenes. So here we see Assassin's Creed running.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that Phil Harrison has been on every single different console at this point. He started at Sony. I felt like he was at Microsoft for a little while before he went to Google. I can't believe this guy is still getting offers from these jobs because it's like the Verizon Switch guy, right? That went over to Sprint or something. It's like his face is so, to me, always kind of like imprinted with Sony and associated with Sony. But I guess if he's good at his job, people are willing to kind of give his face another try. But look how tired and look how hard he's selling this console. Like, this is my third console, and I have to say this is the best one I've ever associated with. But what's exciting so far is like they're showing like third-party publishers associated with it.
You got to bump up like who's
associated with it.
Like
yeah,
that's whenever you get invited to a party, usually you're like, who's going, because you want to know who's going to be there. So them dropping a bunch of logos. Yeah, I don't hear it. I'm sure the people online don't hear it very well either.
Well, it shows that it's playing. You guys can hear it, right?
Do you need to like turn up our headphone volume or something on your actual computer?
Oh, that's probably. But we heard the other one.
Yeah. So what I can say is, if I were to ask myself just straight up, would I buy Stadia? Especially like the Founders Edition being, what is that, $175 maybe? Is the Founders Edition enough for me? I would say this. Oh, let me get some better audio now. For me, the Founders Edition, $175, you're going to get a controller, 3 months of the service, and I don't necessarily know. I think that's cheap for the idea of some sort of console. What I worry about is how many other people are going to be on it with me. So if they have a lot of really cool single-player games when they launch, I think that's going to be a big advantage for them. Obviously, we know that we're going to look at Assassin's Creed, so that will be there. But if you don't have enough games that are going to keep people's attention while you're building up the audience, you're going to have trouble launching something completely new, completely left as far as technology and as far as games are concerned, So
Larian is a company where we try to give everybody a lot of freedom.
And we are dancing around trying to figure out a technical issue right now, but there we go. It sounds a little better.
You can hear it, right?
I can hear it like a tiny bit.
Oh, okay.
I've seen the entire evolution of the games industry.
That's
We
great.
keep on driving the state of the art.
I'm not hearing it at all.
You can't. Oh, you pulled your thing out.
Oh, stupid.
Yeah. Have you tried plugging it in? Turn it on, turn it off. Turn it on.
Was founded to be able to create big epic RPGs in which the world reacts to what you're doing.
I think the thing about Stadia is long term, this kind of framework is what I was expecting.
Tried approaching Wizards of the Coast.
We've talked about this on our podcast many times. It's going to be completely, we're going to lose consoles. Consoles are going to die. Static technology is going to be out the window. It's all about accessibility and content, right? The console was your gateway to content. We don't need the console anymore.
Yeah. It's exciting, but it's Google. I mean, like, they have a graveyard of like ideas that get axed immediately after. I think if anything, they're going for user data for the first year, and I think that's why a lot of third-party publishers are kind of apprehensive to kind of go full on. It's like, all right, we'll support you. This does have a little more traction than all your other experiments, but as soon as you start to show slowdown, which I think they already are with their announcement, so we'll get to it. But from the details that I've read in the headline so far, I haven't watched this full conference yet. They are just the pricing model, the limitations in the internet cap is kind of hampering their message, right? So That's why I'm more excited about the Game Pass and Microsoft that we'll talk about later. Let's keep this with Fair Harrison. Trying to sell us his third console in his last 10 years. How he's like... How can people not see him as like a untrustworthy dude?
A mercenary.
Yeah, like look at his eyes. It's like I work for anybody that pays me a salary. So Google's paying me. That's a Dave Chappelle. It's like, well, Google's paying me, so Google's the best.
You can enjoy smooth gameplay even if you don't have that kind of connection.
It's all in the
so
eyes,
let's say you have a connection speed of just 10 megabits per second.
So
you
this
can
is all
still
fine and
get
dandy,
at
right?
least
to say, like,
720p
hey,
video
you're
at
gonna require
60
this much
frames
of a
per
connection.
second.
10 megabits
Stereo
is still
We're really proud
pretty
of the
high,
experience.
dude. That's
we're
my
able to
internet
deliver.
right now.
It's all thanks to more than 20 years of work.
So you're not going to get 4K
building
60, but
and
you can get 720
optimizing our
60.
networks and data centers to support services with billions of users.
The way
like
that I
YouTube,
look at this is
email,
like
Android.
Technically, I think the
Maps,
best comparison, if people are worried about data caps, because that's where I was going to lead into, is like, I imagine this is probably going to be a lot like your YouTube consumption. If you find that you're somebody who watches hours and hours of YouTube content every day, or Netflix content, or Amazon Prime content, I mean, you're essentially looking at, if you're not busting your data caps there, you're probably going to be okay, is my guess.
Well, we have a question from Sud D Proxy saying, do you think ISPs will take advantage of this and raise prices? They already did, dude. Yeah. Like, if you haven't read your bill yet, surprise, bitch. Like, they already raised your cap to 1 terabyte, right? Yeah. 1 terabyte is your cap. Like, if you start going over that, like, I got this notice a year ago. A day after I got this notice, I already was over that cap. And they anticipated years ago that with Netflix and ongoing everybody trying to be Netflix, that with 4K on the horizon, they already had it on a stat sheet saying that at a certain point, all of us are going to pass that 1 terabyte. I mean, that's what was the whole push with the, what was the free, what was that bill? Internet.
Shit. The one that just got passed recently, where everyone voted no because
yeah. Like everybody voted no except for Congress and Senate
to get the actual name. But the way that I look at it is 2 things. One, I think the cap is shitty, especially because before people were able to advertise unlimited internet. Now unlimited with throttling is legal. You can do it, but then also you can do like the dual channel. Like, oh, now you're on the free channel.
Yeah.
You're out of premium channel bandwidth, so now you're on the. Oh, you want to go back to the premium bandwidth? Well, you're gonna have to pay an extra. We're gonna extort you digitally.
Every time I look at him, he just with those dead eyes, he's just reading off the teleprompter, like, please keep me employed. It's like, isn't he rich by now? Why is he doing this? Why is he like betraying every single console?
Well, let's
started at Sony, went to Microsoft, went to Google.
Let's look at the other side of the coin. Perhaps he
hasn't worked for Nintendo yet, huh?
Like, seriously, perhaps he's really good at his job, and regardless of him being a mercenary going from company to company, if he's great at managing a team, getting architecture built,
is he? I thought his whole job is just being in front of the camera.
I actually
you think he actually manages
anything? I don't know
anything?
a lot about this guy. I just know that.
Remember him in the Sony days?
I mean, I don't know what his role, like what his involvement is.
I think that's his role. Just be the front
evangelist.
man for every conference.
Jesus.
Because he was at Microsoft a year after, Sony kind of like...
So he's just really good at reading teleprompters.
And trying to sell it to people. Alright, so this is Ghost Recon.
It would have been great to have seen like a really dope exclusive for Stadia. And I know that that's a reach, right? Like, what company is going to be like, sure, we're going to invest $200 million and get you like a AAA level, can only be played on Stadia game. I mean, I'm begging for Jesus there.
Yeah.
But it would have been cool if that was a possibility. Like, a huge reason to go to that platform, right? Like, I already know about Assassin's Creed. I already know that I can play Days Gone right now if I wanted to. So I was looking to see like okay, for this reason alone, I'm interested in your console. Like,
exactly.
Destiny 2,
it's the same problem with Sony versus Microsoft. It's like, at a certain point, they're very much the same console. Like, the next-gen console, the stat, is exactly using the same graphics chip and processor. It's basically the same console. The only thing that differentiates fan loyalty is because of the exclusives. And them starting it off, sure, with third-party software to say, hey, we run just as well as all the other games you love. But they need to end it with crazy exclusive at the end. It's like, this is what Jade Raymond and our whole team doing over there. And my gut feeling is they're gonna find out real quick that making games is really hard, even if you have like rock stars, right? Sure. Working together is a whole different thing. Like, you can't just put the dream team together and just hope that they know what they're doing. It's like everyone works together for the first time.
I think it's worth a shot. I will say this. I compare Google and Amazon together a lot. Like, I think about 10, 15 years from now when one of them reigns supreme as the first global dominant company, like, all together, as in like every country is in full support and integration of what they're doing and what they use. I think Amazon's really close. I say that because Google is like banned in China, so they've got a whole continent that they're not allowed to be a part of. Or actually, definitely banned. All of China. I think just China.
I know China tried to like.
I don't know about Taiwan specifically.
Right. I don't know about Taiwan. Yeah. But China and Google are working together, where like they have to like hand over all the code for them to have Google exist. But I know you can't Google over there, but they're starting to change their relations over there. So this game, I think, is one of the exclusives that I read about, which looks pretty interesting. It has like a not Pixar, but one of those like Coraline animated feature kind of look to it.
Like a softer Tim Burton.
Let me kind of bring it up for all those podcast listeners so I can hear it.
I love creepy games. Like, I absolutely love creepy, thrilling games. I don't know why. I don't even need a lot of action. I just love any sort of like creepy ambiance and build up, because you can do so much in horror in a video game that you can't do in a movie, in a book.
Yeah. It definitely has a Stranger Things vibe to it. I mean, the fact that it's a kid inside of school.
If anybody wanted a horror game and they hired me, it'd be a good move. It's my favorite. It's just my favorite. There's so many ways to scare people.
Yeah. Well, watching this actually gives me hope that Google will be able to stand on their own 2 feet with their exclusives. I believe this is an exclusive internally, either of these.
I haven't seen it before.
So what's it called? GYLT? GYLT. Tequila Works. Okay.
Only on Stadia. You can't have those like soft ass logos pop up after that. You gotta. Crossy Road 2.
Yeah. So this game, we got to describe it to the listeners out there, Larry. So you're probably the best. So you're seeing like a top-down view that looks like Crossy Road. It looks like part Sims like as well. Management actually has a nice shader quality to all the elements. Get packed.
So it's a organization battle royale. What the hell am I doing?
Looks like a physics game.
Well, I mean, like I'm watching this trying to figure out what's the point other than not die. I don't see what the success is being advertised. I just see the failure being advertised. So like, based on this commercial, it looks like success is not dying in an environment where everything is just going crazy around you. It's awesome. Okay. But I heard the game was really fun. I forgot who I was talking to or who recommended it. I think it was somebody on the GYLT stream was saying that, like,
so that's Get Patched.
This game is coming out about organizing.
Like coaxing.
Was this the game? Do you remember that
moment? Who exactly? Is this Division? Or Ghost Recon?
Division 2.
So Tom Clancy's the
Dude, I'm so surprised that there's such thing as a Division 2. Like, I just got to go out and say that first. Not that I didn't believe that there would be. It's more so that, like, I saw Division 1 come out. I saw...
Yeah, it didn't... It kind of
feel like it
tripped on its first...
If they asked me to invest, I probably wouldn't have invested in a Division 2. No disrespect to the people who did or develop it. I'm just simply saying, like, that wouldn't have been in the cards for me.
And to create a fast-paced, action-packed...
I think fans really like it, though. I've heard positive.
I think with the onslaught of, like, all these sci-fi game shooters, like, ridiculously coming at a fast rate, like, it's always good to have a modern shooter kind of just come back. A lot of reasons why Call of Duty went back to Modern Warfare, because I see the trend, right? It was just overkill with the sci-fi, overkill with World War II, and then go back to modern shooters.
There was no way. Okay, so this is not to like shit on Infinity Ward whatsoever, because I actually don't like this shit on developers. But there's no way, right? After Ghosts and how Ghosts kind of went down, and then how Infinite didn't really do well enough, I guess, as far as Activision's like sales numbers go.
Yeah.
As soon as Infinite came out, I knew it undersold. I knew then that the next Modern Warfare was Infinity Ward's next game.
Yeah.
I know how Activision does their stuff. They're like, look, we gave you a chance to do your own thing. It didn't land very well.
They gave him 2 chances.
Here's another one. You're going to do Infinite. You want to take it to space? You want to do, okay, cool. Look, guys, I'm sorry. Whatever creative shit that you thought you were going to do next, you need to do tried and true. Fans want Infinity War. They want Modern Warfare. You're making Modern Warfare. I knew as soon as Ghost.
And that's where Call of Duty studios are kind of going. They're going back to just like stick to your damn franchise. Your Treyarch, your Black Ops from now on. Everything Black Ops. And Infinity War. You do Modern Warfare. No more being creative.
Yeah, I think Call of Duty's got a big feat ahead of itself because they're looking to stay relevant. And you know the game. How many years of Call of Duty have we had every year? It's been a lot. Like ever since 2006, I think I've played Call of Duty every year.
Yeah,
something like that. Somewhere around then. Not every year since 2006, but it just feels like since 2000, maybe 2006, 2007, Activision like super doubled down on Call of Duty.
It delivers the best of Stadia for just $9.99 per month.
So.
Stadia Pro gives you regular content that we add to your library for being a Stadia Pro member.
It's my son interrupting.
4K, HDR, 60 frames.
So speaking of Stadia.
Stadia Pro, so this is new. Stadia Pro is just a higher tier.
Yeah, so if you get the Stadia Pro, you can stream 4K.
You're an idiot.
So that's the one that you need the hardware for. I think if you have just like a regular
Chromecast, that's already dumb. This is why it's dumb, right? Netflix didn't get to Netflix by offering a full 4K version. Of course, they have different tiers, but it's like mostly Netflix or you want DVDs with that, right? Am I correct on this?
Yes, it started with DVDs, then they added streaming, then they bumped up the quality of streaming, but then I think now there's an optional you can go and pay more to get like the 4K. I don't know if you get 4K.
Is that true for Netflix? Oh my god.
I know Netflix, obviously Netflix started with DVD, then they added streaming, right? You got both. But DVD was an a la carte option. You could drop the DVD service altogether and just
do streaming. I mean, no one's watching DVDs anymore.
Dude, I wonder how many like 50-cent DVDs you can buy from like Netflix. You know what I mean? Like, hey, they've got to have like a huge catalog of games or of movies that people don't want to watch. 2,000 copies of Liar Liar in some warehouse in Florida somewhere. The original Girls Gone Wild Volume 1 DVD. Like Netflix has like this archive of where the United States was when they were watching DVDs at the time. Like you can get the complete Friends collection. $2.
I wonder for these conferences if they tell them to dress down on purpose, trying to relate to the nerds. It's like, what do the geeks wear? A sweater.
The last thing
with jeans.
No one was gonna watch somebody. Like
no, like you don't think they rehearse every single bit of these? Yeah. Like this huge message.
No, but what I mean is, if that guy walked out in a business suit, like just the visual connection would be lost.
Will be lost
completely.
Yeah. But this is them trying to like imitate us. This is what they look like.
My super, I was like screaming.
I always wait to see when the companies throw in the girl with the colored hair.
Yeah.
For 30 years and I've never experienced
that's the like whenever I see like stereotypical game stuff, I always hate that there's regular people in the game industry. Not that if you have colored hair you're not a regular person. That's not what I'm saying. But it's always like I feel like when they show the girl, they're always showing like, oh look, she's got this colored hair thing. Like, oh look at this cool hip guy with the half shaved.
A lot of women that I worked with do have colored hair though.
Man, I know like when I've gone to a company, I've seen like out of the let's say 6 or 7 girls, like one for sure.
Yeah,
like, that's really cool.
It's 1 out of 7 for sure.
But I also see like regular people.
Yeah.
But when we're being stereotyped,
it's
never just like, hey, my name's Abby. I really like games like I don't know, fucking Overwatch. I love playing Stratago with my friends on board game night. Like it's like, hey, I'm a streamer and I like this game and this game and this game. I drink Mountain Dew. I do this. I do that. Like, I hate stereotypes.
Yeah, I'm like on
There's regular people playing video games. Is what I'm trying to say. No. And not that if you have colored hair, you're not a regular person.
But every press conference, you gotta have a represented minority somewhere.
We're so edgy. Show the edgy people. look at that cool haircut. You
I'm sure
know
the
this is
people
a
being
gamer.
interviewed, they know what's up. It's like,
Yeah.
here I am.
Man.
I'm glad that Bungie has Destiny back. And I'm like on the fence with Google Stadia, kind of showing a lot of third-party stuff. Of course, like if they want everybody's like, this is the everything console, everything that you ever want to play will be on here. That's important. But there seems to be a large emphasis on third-party software, and we're 10 minutes in, and I think there's a total of.
I guess what kills me here is like, I'm overwhelmingly feeling like, hey, Stadia is a new way to play everything that you already play, right?
Yeah.
Spend money. That's hard for me. Like that's very hard for me to like. If I want to play Destiny 2 right now, am I gonna wait till Stadia comes out, or am I just gonna play it right now? Yeah. Right? Like I'm already used to playing it on my console and then remote streaming from my PC because I leave my PlayStation online all the time.
Yeah.
I needed like 6 good like, hey, we worked with a team at Capcom to bring back, I don't know, some sort of like arcade Dungeons and Dragons game. I would love to see that happen again. Oh, awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like the D&D version of Castle Crashers. We have done that for you only on Stadia.
Yeah.
Great co-op opportunities. Play online, drop in, drop out. Hey, we've made games specifically for streamer versus audience, right? Take Evolve. You take Evolve, but you make it 1 versus 100.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Something like that I think would do gangbusters in today's age because people want to see and interact with their streamers anyway. There's stream sniping. Mm-hmm. There's like just like being like rolling with that person, being a part of that show.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for someone to design a game which is literally like, okay, I've created the match as the streamer. Yeah. Here's the link to click to get in my match. Yeah. Everyone jumps in, and now you're part of the show. Like,
yeah, I mean,
where's that game?
Google Stadia has the best platform for that with YouTube, and so I mean, Google has everything stacked in their favor. Mm-hmm. They just have commitment issues. So I'm just waiting to see what is enough for them to kind of keep supporting the platform. I mean, they are going bigger, I feel, with an influx of game developers, like high-profile game developers joining them. They got Phil Harrison, you know. They got the guy that does every console, so they got that marked down for them. And they got this guy who has, like, dark Sith eyes.
What is your thing?
It's all in the eyes,
man. What kind of eyes do I have? You
have kind eyes. You have kind eyes. You have kind eyes. I looked at him long and deep. And
he's got gentle
to me, man, when I look at these marketing, look at these eyes, dude. Like, their mouths can flap. But you know how many lies you have to tell to have purple rings around your eyes, dude? It's like, I don't know how to get that hue.
Yes.
Under my color. Look at this guy. Look at how dead and tired this guy is. Look, there's no excitement around his eyes.
I'll say this. He doesn't seem like he's traditionally gamer hyped. Yeah. And traditional gamer hype to me is synonymous with YouTuber intro hype. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm here on my YouTube
That's what I
channel.
want to see. That's what I see.
Like, he's not that.
But that's what I see.
I'll give you that.
But like, it's all about what I've noticed with these guys is that it's all with what they say and the hands. Mm-hmm. It's like being able to like say the message, hands, but like completely skip the eye department.
I will say this. If I was Google and I was trying to get people to buy into something that is potentially risky from the consumer perspective, risky in the sense that like I already can do all the stuff that you're telling me I'm going to get to do on this thing you want me to pay for. Yeah. Right? But long story short, I would hit the energy significantly higher than what I feel like they're currently doing. You don't have to oversell, but it does help to not just like, hey,
you own YouTube, man. You make classes for these guys. Yeah. Like, you can't take a class and kind of take your own best tips.
I think the juxtaposition is like, I'm going on a high, low, high, low, high, low, high, low, and instead you should like kind of wave but have trajectory.
Yeah, this guy has no trajectory.
I feel like there's no trajectory in what I'm watching.
His pants is too tight.
It's like
his eyes are too dead. And they're just overall too pale.
See this great game, like, oh, cool, this is great. And then it comes back, so on Stadia, we were trying to achieve
it's like no one likes hearing that. It's just like noise. Yeah. It's like, get to the damn videos already.
Yeah. I think they actually could have used some like live. but curated live. So like do 6-7 takes of somebody like, wow,
yeah, this is a commercial
video.
for us right
here.
We
want to thank our partners. Next, we're going to show you some upcoming exclusive content from yada,
That's it.
Yada, yada.
That was it.
There's no salesmanship.
So that was Stadia.
All right.
We watched the whole thing. I was unimpressed.
Okay, would you buy?
So I see what they were saying. I only saw like one exclusive, which was that kind of Coraline S animated Stranger Things kind of vibe. They had that top-down view physics games that I think the whole point is to create destruction.
Yeah.
Don't know
yet.
And I just see a bunch of Harrison in front of a white screen just talking about how we should trust him. After 3 consoles, he's worse than the Verizon guy. He went to every major console.
I was gonna say that
except for Nintendo.
When I saw the "Can you hear me now" guy on the Sprint, I was like, "Oh, that was smart."
It was a smart thing.
That was a smart move.
But this guy doesn't even play it up. His whole campaign isn't about like I associate myself only with the best. That's not his message. It's like I'm out of a job, but Google offered me another one. So,
hey guys, I'm here again. New platform.
Yeah.
So today I'm here to. I don't even know if
it's the same thing he probably said years ago, but he just insert new console name. Insert. I used to work at Microsoft. Now I work at Sony. That was pretty much it. So I can see why people were underwhelmed. That was the whole conference. It wasn't even a conference. It was kind of like a Nintendo Direct presentation, very curated, very controlled.
You know how much that probably cost them, though?
Probably a lot, right?
Compared to like...
compared to going on the stage and presenting at E3,
like
way cheaper.
A 1-hour YouTube video. So
they probably use those YouTube like studios. Yeah.
And then they got footage from all their games.
Yeah. For what we saw, we probably paid way too much for that, to be honest. But like not in comparison to what they would have spent at E3, which is the main concern.
And most likely they still probably do have a physical presence at E3. I haven't gone yet.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they have some kind of booth. I
saw them at GDC. So
that says that like look at it's working, but it's like close to the router type of. I'm sure. Like I have no doubt that Stadia will work. What it's advertising, how it's streaming, and you can go through different devices on your Wi-Fi network. From what I've seen, the minimum requirement for internet speed is way too low for a mobile. And do you want to really rack up your mobile data for gigs and gigs of streaming? Yeah. Like I didn't really see too much of a download option either.
I think,
which I'm sure later they will have one, but. How would that even work, man? We're talking about gigs. Like your phone can't handle all
I think the
gigs.
best way to kind of evaluate how you would enjoy your Stadia experience is go to your internet service provider's contract that you have, or at least just find out what your throttled speed is. Even if you have unlimited, find out what you've gone over the cap. So now here is your like switch to throttled speed, and then use that speed on the Stadia chart because you'll know at a bare minimum you should at least expect this. Like no matter if you've played the new Final Fantasy VII remake for 300 hours this month, somehow, right? Like, where on that little sliding chart is like, oh wow, they're gonna bump me down to 720, 60 frames a second, and ask yourself, is that acceptable?
Yeah.
Because that's more than likely gonna be. If you know that that's the bottom barrier and that's not acceptable for you, then Stadia might not be for you.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way that I would probably evaluate it.
Yeah. From my initial excitement over Google Stadia, even with my apprehension to believing Google actually delivering, ever since GDC, I feel like it's been taking a peg down the more I learn about the details.
Ooh.
It's true, man.
Okay. It's fair.
Yeah,
it's fair.
I like the YouTube integration. I love the firepower that they have over at Google with YouTube and everything, and all the dream turns. But the fact is, the exclusives are light, and we know that's going to hurt the program. We saw what
happened to Microsoft.
Netflix already knew that problem was happening as soon as Disney only signed a 5-year contract. They knew that they're going to build something on their own, and so without the influx of exclusives, which Sony and Microsoft have been doing it for years. They know they have the infrastructure, they have the studios vented, they have their experts in Game of the Years in the bag. It's going to take years for Google to get to that point and be able to produce, unless they're just buying up everybody, which they're kind of doing, but to get a team together, to kind of work well together, it's a whole different story. Yeah. So I think it's going to take some years.
I think the one thing that I can say, and I want to transition into some positives after this, but Google has the money to ride out the storm.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't kill it because they're broke. They would kill it because they're uninspired, unmotivated, or they feel like they've completely missed the target and it's not worth course correcting.
Feels the same to me.
So I would imagine. Well, I'm just saying, this isn't like a make it or break it scenario where like a lot of like, hey, we're launching a console brand new, right?
It's
you
not
have
that,
to buy it or else our whole company goes out of business. Right?
Right.
So I can see that this is probably going to weather the storm. Also, I'm just happy that they're playing First Penguin.
Yeah.
That a company like Google is playing First Penguin. Yeah. Because if you look at Oculus, right? Yeah. Oculus was like, until Facebook bought them. And now Oculus is like, cool, First Penguin. But now we have seen like the benefit of having so much interest in VR open up because technology met it halfway.
Yeah.
I think that Google being First Penguin here is going to be fantastic because it'll take them a lot longer and harder to fail than if it was a like make it or break it company being like, hey, we've just announced Stadia, we are Go Live, or we are Genkai or whatever, right? We don't see this level of support or commitment from third-party developers on those platforms because the skepticism is super high. But when you think of Google being First Penguin, and when I say First Penguin, it's that old like 80 penguins on the iceberg looking in, and then finally one jumps in, then 20, then 100, you know what I mean?
I think, it's opening up the lane for Microsoft. Which tomorrow, when you join us, we'll go through the Microsoft press conference, and this is what it is. This is the first episode to Games Recap. Once a day, every day at 10 a.m. And starting next week, we're gonna start adding shows. So we're gonna try Friday at 11 a.m. shortly after to do Backseat Gamer. So if you're joining us, watching us on Twitch right now, feel free to jump in on that and watch us play games. So with Games Recap, this is exactly what it is. We recap, we watch and dust off the VHS tape and to record and actually review a lot of the game news that are happening every day. And so if you want the latest and greatest from game developers' perspective, as well as gamers, right? This is the best place to be.
Yeah, so for anybody who's new to us, Brandon, Larry, we both longtime game developers, went to college to learn how to make games, play games our whole lives, worked on big AAA titles, worked on smaller like mobile titles, worked on independent projects on the side. I mean, we've seen and done theoretically it all, as they say. So
we're coming at it less from a journalist perspective, which we're kind of technically are right now.
To media,
but we are the bridge because being game developers ourselves, we can analyze a lot of the news that are coming out and why they're doing certain things and why Google is kind of stumbling in a bit. And I feel obviously, these are issues that we've experienced on the show floor when we're developing games, and now we're actually seeing it out there and kind of laughing at it because developers. The Google thing is a great thing for the industry. That means a lot of developers can go over there and work with a good job with good benefits. Big company, free lunch. So we hope that Google can keep going with this, which I think out of everything, to be fair, of all the experiments, Stadia is the most exciting. It's a huge piece of the pie.
They've told people when they can get it. Right?
Yes,
so
exactly.
Google is committed.
Google is committed enough to get your user data and information and playing habits. So I'm interested to see how it plays out. I want
it to work.
But they have to cut some kind of deal with Elon Musk to kind of use their Starfleet internet satellites that they shoot up there with their SpaceX stuff, because the current internet stuff, even if you want to play at home, is not enough. Like, it's really limiting. And paying a premium on that on just internet using at home, not even talking about mobile. That's the thing that's really keeping from Stadia really exploding.
I'll say this, best case scenario from the fan perspective, why you guys should be excited to me. For $9.99 a month, I have access to top level games, AAA quality games through Google's platform streamed. I don't have a whole collection of games that I have to move to and fro and all that stuff. But here's the great thing. I also didn't spend $400 to buy the console. Right. So like, imagine if come holiday season next year, you're about to buy the new Xbox or the new Sony, right? And you're about to chunk down potentially $350 to $450 to $500. We don't know where they're going to fall in line yet, but let's just assume that.
Right.
Then you're going to buy like one game, right? So let's just call it $550, $600 range now.
Okay.
Or you can buy Stadia for $10. You're already in the game.
Yeah.
And that extra $540 you can spend on more games. You could spend on whatever else you want if you choose to go to the Stadia route. If Stadia ends up being very successful, it definitely will mean a lot to people who want to play the best games without having to spend as much money.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go.
All right. That's it for today. Thank you for reviewing Google Stadia with us. I was underwhelmed.
So you're not going to pay the $10?
I mean, I saw exactly what I was reading.
Wait, one last question for me.
Yeah.
That what you just watched,
yeah.
You wouldn't pay $10 for 30 days of that. It's a fair
No,
question.
I would opt in for the free trial.
Okay.
And I would be apprehensive with the renewal.
Okay.
So that's why I'm looking forward to tomorrow's Microsoft press conference. Even though I heard it was boring, you're a user of the Game Pass already. You know it works. I think Microsoft is going to be the leading streaming platform for this new medium. I think they have it in the bag in terms of exclusives and everything. Sony, I'm kind of hoping that they come in. I think they have stronger exclusives. But we'll watch it tomorrow and tune in tomorrow if you want to talk about that stuff. All right, that's it.
Consider yourselves recapped.